Hi, my name is Fiona Cooke. I'm a writer and blogger living in Abbey Lakes, County Laois. I'm delighted to have been asked by Paul to give a reading for the Skibbereen Speakeasy sessions, and I'm going to be reading a story from my book, The Lights Went Out and Other Stories, which is here, and I'm going to read an excerpt from one of my favourite stories, Darkling. So without further ado, I shall crack on with it and hope that you enjoy it. He walked upon the hummock between the ring of gnarled and ancient rowan trees, where the ground rose up to a point, past the twisted branches to resemble a bald pate above a broken crown. An old place, the heart of the forest, it was said, a place she had never trod, as the light grew dimmer and the trees formed a ring that scratched and pulled at the wanderer who had strayed from the path. It was an area of the forest that local law guarded against with tales of strange noises and lights. Emma pulled herself up smartly, and half hidden behind the stout trunk of an oak she observed the wanderer. He appeared to be of above height, with shoulder-length golden hair that shone in the moonlight as he moved about the hill. He looked to be well dressed, like a nobleman in his frock coat, waistcoat and breeches, each of a different woodland hue, the greens and browns of bark and leaf. He wore knee-length hunting boots, the leather bright as a new chestnut. A most beautiful creature, he strode with what purpose she could not tell. His long limbs moved with fluid grace. He seemed part of the moss-covered hill he walked upon, as if he had appeared from the earth itself. Unable to take her eyes off the stranger, Emma moved from tree to tree until he seemed close enough to touch, until finally, as if in a dream, she stepped out from behind the cover of the trees to face him. A bird released from a trap, with no choice but to fly towards danger. The walker between the trees turned on his heel, sensing her, then moved towards the slight figure of the girl in the grey cloak, whose wide eyes shone at his approach. The stitching on his waistcoat glinted in the moon's light as he neared. Her eyes were drawn to a face of contradictions, ancient yet youthful. His skin was white as the light that the moon poured down, white as bone bleached in the sun, pale as the ice in the village pond in midwinter, pale and cold as death. He towered above her, the beauty of his features commanding her attention. As pale as his skin, his lips were red as spilled blood. Wide-set eyes, shaped like a cat's with pupils of inky blackness, stared down at her, their lashes as long as the legs of a spider. His fair hair fell from his forehead in sheets to hang past the shoulders of his frock coat. His lips curved into a smile of pure delight, and she shuddered as he suddenly threw back his head and laughed. And as he did so, she noticed the stitching upon his waistcoat moving, as miniature embroidered birds and woodland creatures flew between tiny trees and flitted about the forest upon his chest. A voice sounded inside her head, clear and high as a crystal bell. Emma, Emma, Emma. The voice sang her name over and over. The voice sang to her, telling her the stories of the forest, the beginning of things, of acorn and leaf, of moss and worm and creatures that burrowed beneath her feet. She caught the scent of the moss-covered forest floor, of mushrooms waiting to push up through the fallen leaves. She caught glimpses of herself as a young girl with her hair plaited in ribbons, running after a ball between the trees of the forest. A pretty child with auburn locks, rosy cheeks, a button for a mouth. She watched herself dreaming, her hair falling upon the pillow, the soft purple of her closed eyelid, and a doll clutched in her hands. The voice spoke now of hidden halls and lofty towers, of caverns filled with roots and jewels, great halls floodlit with candles, rush-covered floors and rock walls that sparkled like diamonds. She heard of kings and queens, who ruled with both cruelty and gaiety upon carved thrones of oak and bone. And all about her were wings and the sound of flying things. She could feel them about her, fluttering across her closed eyelids like moths, soft and light, and larger touches on her shoulder. There were whispers like kisses on her neck and arms. Will you go? Will you go?